Southern Campaign 1778 to 1781.
The failure to restore authority in the northern colonies led the British to try an entirely new strategy. Believing that there were considerable numbers of loyalists living in the southern colonies, they made that region the focus of their operations for the remainder of the war. But while they managed to win several battlefield victories over the Americans, they were ultimately no more successful in restoring control here than they had been in the north. Initially, the Southern Campaign proved highly successful for the British Army. That summer at Camden, South Carolina, British crushed an American army under General Horatio Gates, the hero of Saratoga, leading to fears that all of the South might fall under British control. At this point, however, British plans began to unravel. Their strategy called for organizing loyalists into militias that could defend the places that they had captured. But the Loyalists ultimately were not up to the task and surrendered to frequent attacks by locals who supported the revolution. In October, the Patriot militias scored a decisive defeat against the Loyalists at Kings Mountain, South Carolina, effectively ending any meaningful involvement by the Loyalists in the campaign. Cornwallis decided to withdraw from the Carolinas and led his army north into Virginia.
The British leader was General Lord Cornwallis, and the leader of the colonists was General Horatio Gates in the Battle of Camden.
The Southern Campaign was fought between the British, which will be marked as blue, and the colonists, which will be marked as red. The Battle of Camden was a major victory for the British in the southern colonies of the American Revolutionary War. August 16, 1780, British forces under Lieutenant General Charles Lord Cornwallis routed the American forces of Major General Horatio Gates north of Camden in South Carolina. This strengthened the British hold on the Carolinas following the capture of Charleston. Following the battle, Gates never held a field command again.
There were three groups of Patriot militia: the Patriot Regulars, the North Carolina militia, and the Virginia militia. General Gates was a former British soldier, and he knew that General Cornwallis would be putting his best militia on his left flank and his less experienced soldiers on his right flank. Therefore, Gates decided to place his best soldiers on his left flank facing the weaker British army and his weaker force on his right flank facing stronger British force. Each army was facing the other's weaker force.
There were three groups of British militia: the Irish and the Loyalists, who were the British's weaker force, and the British Regulars, who were the British's stronger force. Cornwallis did exactly what Gates taught. He told his weaker force, the Irish and the Loyalists, to attack the Patriot Regulars, and Gates also told his right flank to attack on the British's weaker force. There were about 3,000 Patriot soldiers fighting against 2,300 British soldiers in total.
After they attacked each other, panic spread between the Patriot Regulars, and about half of them either died or ran away by horse. The Virginia militia also ran away. After they attacked, Cornwallis told his right flank to attack on the Patriot's stronger force again. The militia collapsed entirely, but the North Carolina militia stood its ground. The Irish and Loyalist militia moved left and joined the British Regulars. They all attacked upon the North Carolina militia and won the Battle of Camden.
The Patriot Army consisted of the regular Continental Army and the militia. The militia was unexperienced, and when faced with a battle, they usually panicked, although the Continentals usually held their ground. Cornwallis relies on his regular British troops, such as Guards and Highlanders, as well as a group of German Hessians. Lieutenant Ben Astor Tarleton was relying on his British Dragons, and they were mostly feared because they were known as a fierce, ruthless force who would never lose combat. They would command savage attacks with no mercy. The Patriot Army consisted of about 3,000 men, and the British Army consisted of about 2,300 men.
The kinds of weapon were also different because a brown bess was used by both the Patriot Army and the British Army. The British Army also used the bayonets, which were feared by the colonists because it was a dagger-like steel weapon that was attached to a gun and used for stabbing or slashing in hand-to-hand combat. The Patriots used sharpshooters with special rifles and special application to pick off British soldiers.
The French joined the war on February 6, 1778, by signing the Treaty of Alliance. The Treaty of Alliance of 1778 was a defensive alliance between France and the United States of America, formed in the American Revolutionary War, which promised America French military support in case of an attack by the British forces. Delegates of King Louis XVI of France and the Second Continental Congress signed the treaty along with the Treaty of Amity and Commerce at the Hôtel de Crillon in Paris on February 6, 1778.
This baked the colonies with military efforts, military expertise, and 95% of gunpowder until they had full independence. French support deepened after the Americans beat British in October 1777, the Battle of Saratoga providing themselves with independence and formal alliance with France. The French sent about 12,000 soldiers and 32,000 sailors in total to the Americas. The French ammunitions were vital to the Revolutionary War, and they extended their financial support to the American forces little by little.
The aftermath. The aftermath. Thank you so much for watching.
Hope you enjoyed this video.